We're introduced to Lisa Spinelli, a kindergarten teacher in Staten Island, moving through her daily routine with practiced calm. She teaches small children basic lessons, supervises playtime, and gently manages the chaos that comes with a classroom full of 5-year-olds. On the surface, she's competent and caring, the kind of teacher parents trust without question. Outside of school, Lisa's life feels far less fulfilled. She lives with her husband and teenage children, but there's a clear emotional distance between them. Conversations are short and functional, more about logistics than connection. In the evenings, Lisa attends a poetry class, hoping to express something deeper about herself. She writes poems and reads them aloud, but they're met with polite indifference. Other students receive praise and encouragement, while Lisa's work barely registers. It stings, and you can see how badly she wants to be taken seriously as an artist. Back at school, during a normal class activity, one of her students, a quiet boy named Jimmy, suddenly begins reciting a poem out loud. It's not childlike or simple, the words are thoughtful, rhythmic, and emotionally precise. Lisa is stunned, and asks him to repeat it, and he does, just as naturally, as if the poem appeared fully formed in his mind. Lisa is deeply shaken by this moment. She writes the poem down word for word, almost reverently. She later asks Jimmy where it came from, but he doesn't really know. He says it just came into his head. To him, it's nothing special, but to Lisa, it feels like a revelation. From that point on, she starts paying closer attention to Jimmy. She listens for more poems, hovering nearby during playtime, subtly steering situations so he'll speak again. Each time he recites something new, she writes it down, increasingly convinced that she has discovered a true poetic prodigy. At the same time, her frustration with her own life grows sharper. In her poetry class, she continues to feel invisible. Her teacher critiques her work without warmth, and her classmates seem unmoved. The contrast between Jimmy's effortless brilliance and her own struggle eats at her. She begins to see Jimmy's talent as something fragile, something that could be lost if it isn't protected. That evening, Lisa sits at home going over the poem she wrote down earlier, reading Jimmy's words again and again like they're sacred text. She's genuinely impressed, stunned that something this thoughtful came out of a 5-year-old. For a brief moment, Lisa feels validated. Not for her own work, but for recognizing something extraordinary before anyone else did. The next day, she brings the poem to her adult poetry class. She reads it aloud as if it's her own. The room changes immediately and her teacher leans forward. The other students stop checking out. When she finishes, they're captivated. They praise the imagery, the restraint, and the emotional weight. Her teacher tells her she needs to keep writing like this, and Lisa absorbs every word, even though she knows it isn't truly hers. Still, the attention feels intoxicating, and for the first time, she's being seen the way she's always wanted. Back at school the following day, Lisa pulls Jimmy aside from the playground and asks him about the poem he recited earlier. She wants him to explain what it meant, where it came from, and what he was thinking. Jimmy shuts down completely, as he won't speak. He just stares at her, distant and closed off. When school lets out, Jimmy's babysitter Becca arrives to pick him up. Lisa asks to speak with her privately. Becca explains that Jimmy sometimes goes quiet for long stretches, then suddenly recites poems as if they arrive fully formed. Lisa asks Becca to start writing the poems down whenever that happens, framing it as something school-related. Becca agrees without much suspicion. That evening, Lisa tries calling Jimmy's father to talk about his son's gift, but the call goes straight to voicemail. The next day in class, Lisa has the kids painting on canvases. When it's rest time, she wakes Jimmy and quietly takes him into the bathroom. She gives him what she calls an assignment, asking him to think about point of view. She tells him to look around, take in the world, and let something come to him. Jimmy looks, but nothing happens. Before sending him back, Lisa makes him promise to come to her the moment a poem forms in his head. Jimmy agrees and returns to his mat. After school, Jimmy starts pacing, softly reciting a new poem. Lisa rushes to write it down, but she misses the beginning. When she asks him to repeat it, he refuses, as he's not in the mood. Becca arrives shortly after, and Lisa asks if she knows the poem Jimmy just recited. Becca says no, explaining that Jimmy also recites poems at bedtime sometimes. Lisa pleads with her to pay closer attention during those moments and write everything down. Becca agrees and leaves with Jimmy. That evening, Lisa goes to Jimmy's uncle's office. She introduces herself as Jimmy's teacher and asks about the poems. His uncle, who loves poetry himself, says he used to read poems to Jimmy when he was younger, but never imagined it would lead to this. When Lisa asks about Jimmy's father, the uncle explains that he's always busy running a nightclub and doesn't spend much time encouraging Jimmy creatively. Lisa urges him to talk to his brother, stressing how important it is that Jimmy's gift is nurtured. The uncle promises he'll mention it. The next day at school, Lisa crosses another line. She goes through Jimmy's bag and takes his phone. She pulls him out of class, even as the substitute teacher watches with visible concern. Outside, Lisa begs Jimmy to call her whenever a poem comes to him at home. She saves her number in his phone herself and presses him to promise. Jimmy quietly agrees. Later, Lisa and her husband are alone at home. There's a rare moment of closeness between them, playful and intimate, until Lisa's phone rings. It's Jimmy. He's reciting a poem, and Lisa immediately pulls away, grabs a pen, and writes every word down, completely absorbed. The next day at school, Lisa thanks Jimmy for calling her. She then reads one of her own poems to him, clearly hoping for validation. Jimmy listens, uninterested, and unimpressed. Later, Lisa meets her poetry teacher for a one-on-one session. She reads her own work first. He's polite but unmoved. Then she reads Jimmy's poem and his reaction is immediate and intense. He's overwhelmed by the depth of it, by what he believes it says about her. In that moment, admiration turns into attraction. He kisses her, and they end up on the floor together. By now, Lisa isn't just crossing boundaries. She's erased them completely, convincing herself that everything she's doing is in service of art, even as her grip on reality keeps slipping. The next day at home, the tension finally spills out. Lisa's son casually mentions that he's set up a meeting with the Marines. Lisa immediately pushes back, and talks about intellect, about potential, about not wasting a life on something she sees as empty. Her son doesn't argue for long. He tells her plainly that he wants to choose his own path, not the one she keeps trying to force on him. Then he walks out, leaving Lisa standing there, stunned by how little control she actually has over her own family. The following day, Lisa comes home from kindergarten and finds the house packed with teenagers, as it's a full-blown party. As she moves through the chaos, she finds her daughter smoking. Lisa tries to lecture her, explaining how disappointed she is, how this isn't the life she wants for her. Her daughter fires back without hesitation, telling her that she just wants to live, to be normal, not trapped under her mother's constant preaching about art and intellect. The words hit hard and Lisa walks away, heartbroken, and instead of turning to her family, she calls Jimmy. She just greets him, clinging to the one connection that still makes her feel understood. At school the next day, Lisa watches Jimmy from across the room. She pulls him out of class and takes him into a quiet hall. There, she tells him about a poetry reading happening on Thursday night, a place where poets perform in front of an audience. She tells him it would be special if he read his poems there. Jimmy agrees, trusting her without hesitation. That evening, Lisa finally goes to Jimmy's father's nightclub. She introduces herself, and immediately starts talking about Jimmy's gift. His father listens, but he isn't impressed. He tells her that poetry doesn't pay bills, and talks about his brother, a smart man who still struggles to afford rent. He insists he wants Jimmy to have a normal life, one that leads to money and stability. Lisa pushes back, arguing that Jimmy's talent deserves care. Eventually, she convinces him to let her watch Jimmy after school as a nanny. When she mentions the poetry night, he shuts it down, saying it's too late for a child to be out. The next day after school, Lisa takes Jimmy to a museum, hoping the art will spark something new in him. That evening, she brings him home late and tries to explain herself, but Jimmy's father's girlfriend barely listens. She simply takes Jimmy inside, closing the door on Lisa. Another afternoon, Lisa takes Jimmy out to eat, telling him they need to prepare for the poetry night. When evening comes, she brings him to the reading anyway. They enter as a poet is already performing. The room is quiet and attentive. When it's their turn, Lisa leads Jimmy onto the stage and introduces him as her special student, saying he's about to recite his poems, not realizing that her poetry teacher is sitting in the audience. Jimmy begins to speak. The words flow effortlessly and the room goes still. The poetry teacher's expression changes as he recognizes every line. These are the poems he thought Lisa wrote. When Jimmy finishes, the audience is stunned, impressed by the depth coming from such a young child. In the bathroom afterward, Lisa breaks down. She congratulates Jimmy, her voice shaking, then asks to be alone. She stares at herself, overwhelmed by shame, finally admitting to herself that she stole a child's voice to feel important. When she comes out, she finds Jimmy sitting with her poetry teacher. His disappointment is unmistakable. He calls her a leech, someone who feeds off another person's talent, and tells her she's no longer welcome in his class. That night, because it's so late, Lisa lets Jimmy sleep at her house. The next morning at school, she notices his seat is empty. Then her phone rings. It's Jimmy's father. He's furious, scolding her taking Jimmy out at night without permission and for not bringing him home. He tells her Jimmy won't be returning to that kindergarten and hangs up. Back in the classroom, Lisa tells the other teacher that Jimmy won't be coming back. Her voice cracks, as she can barely hold it together. The next morning, Lisa packs a bag and sneaks out of her house. She waits outside Jimmy's home, then follows them as his father drops him off at a new kindergarten. When the teachers aren't looking, Lisa approaches Jimmy through the fence. She tells him to come with her, saying they're going on an adventure. Jimmy agrees, and they leave town together. They end up by a lake. For a while, it feels peaceful. They play in the water, laughing, disconnected from everything else. Then Jimmy tells her a poem is forming in his head. Lisa instantly pulls out her pen and paper, writing every word. She hugs him tightly, overwhelmed by how special she believes he is. Later, Jimmy goes to shower while Lisa waits. When he finishes, Lisa steps into the bathroom herself. Suddenly, the door locks. She realizes Jimmy has locked her in, and begs him to open it, but he doesn't. Instead, he calls the police. Lisa hears his calm voice through the door and finally understands how far she's gone, how dangerous her obsession has become. When the call ends, Jimmy unlocks the door. Lisa rushes to get dressed, and Jimmy takes her hand, a quiet gesture that shows he still cares, even now. Moments later, the police arrive and take Jimmy away, leaving Lisa behind, alone with the weight of everything she's done. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe for more notifications. Until next time. See you soon.